Recently, I was listening to a podcast and was a scientist, and he talked about one of his mentors who was basically chastising him a little bit because he was doing research and the conclusion of his research didn't fit basically what his preconceived notions were that they should have been. And he said that there are no solutions, there are only trade offs. That's something I feel is very much underrated nowadays as far as insight. So many people, in my opinion, nowadays focus on just like singular factors and say, okay, this is a solution. And they dismiss the fact that there actually are trade-offs, that you can't have your cake and eat it too. So you're gonna have to make these trades. It was very well illustrated not that long ago when I was teaching my MMA class, and we were working on the heavy bag, and one of my students was throwing jabs and crossing this and that, and he was constantly moving his head offline. And I said, look, it's great, but now stop moving your head and just step straight in and fire it. And the response was, well, yeah, but then I'm evading as I punch, and that is true. That does work. However, it is by far not the only way to throw straight punches. It is also not the best possible way to throw straight punches because there is no best possible way. There are only trade-offs, meaning, well, if you are faced with an opponent in the ring, cage, or whatever, who is very fast, equally fast to you, or even faster, then you might not be able to pull off a regular stepping in jab or straight right where you just keep your head on center line as you punch. Because he's too fast, he counters, he slips and counters you, and so on. So in that regard, it might be interesting to leave the advantage to him. So he fires first, and you fire your jab or cross as you evade off to the side, get your head offline. So it's a timing issue. It's when exactly do you throw that punch where you move your head offline as you step in, as he strikes at the same time. That is one example. There are others. The point is that this is not always going to be the case. You will sometimes be in a position where moving your head offline systematically, and that is a key, every single time moving your head offline as you strike is what gets you knocked out. Why? Every time you become predictable, your opponent will adjust. If he can predict how you will move when you move, meaning in this case, whenever you throw a straight punch, you will move your head offline, he can predict that and have something waiting for you. I can't tell you how many people I've kicked in the face in training who did just that. Where I would just, once I pick up on that habit, I would then entice them, lure them into throwing a jab or a cross, and then just lean out of the way and kick him in the face with a snap kick, not even a hard one, but just a snap kick to show them, like, look, I can see what you're doing, and this is a possible counter to that. Is that the only thing you can do? No. Does it have to be a high kick? No, it's not the point. The point is that if you are rigid in the way you view things, and if you only look at one factor in relation to a specific way of throwing a technique, eventually that is going to cost you. Because there are rarely, maybe even never, but that's a big word, so I don't like to use it, but I think rarely there is only one factor that matters in any situation involving fighting, violence, and so on. So trying to look at multiple factors, taking into account multiple variables, that you can then make a good informed decision as to, okay, this is how I'm going to act, this is what I'll do, and fill in the details as necessary. One of my teachers would like to say, do it as most appropriate. And I think that is something that is very, very valuable as just a guiding principle. What is the most appropriate thing to do right now? Meaning, with all the variables that we see in front of us at this stage, what is the best solution? Change one variable or change several, and that solution is no longer the best one. A different one is needed. So yes, sometimes moving offline as you punch is going to be the best solution, but not always. The true skill comes when you can differentiate between those different scenarios. This is the time when I have to move my head offline, and now, however, that's no longer the case because he adapted to it. Now I'm in danger if I actually do that all the time, so I'll adapt and do the technique in a different way. That is where the true skill comes. And I just today had a talk with one of my students about so many people nowadays, especially on social media, and I can't really cast any stones at anybody because this is also me on social media. But I see a lot of instructors and influencers nowadays say stuff like, okay, just do these two things, 1, 2, 3, and that's it. That's the solution. Not talking about trade-offs. Doesn't mean that they're wrong per se, only that, in my opinion, they're giving even less than half of the story there. And the true mastery doesn't come from understanding those 1, 2, 3 things that they advise. It's understanding all the other things that also exist, the other factors, and knowing when those are more important than the 3, let's say, best bang for your buck techniques that they suggest. A lot of people talk about the 80-20 principle, and my position is that yes, if you understand or can do those 80% things very well, you will definitely have a big advantage. That doesn't mean you've achieved mastery of whatever the subject or skill is, because the true mastery comes from that 20%. All the exceptions to the rules, or all the nuances. Where does it break down? Where do you have to adapt whatever is in that 80% to make it work? Because you will not always have the ideal situation. Does that mean you have to focus only on the 20%? Of course not. That's not the point. The point is that if you look at singular factors in the equation and say these factors here, or this one here, or that one there, that's the one. If I only look at this one, it'll work. I think you're setting yourself up for failure. Not only do I think that, I'm very much convinced of it. So this is my plea, basically, to say, like, okay, look further. Once you've gotten to that point, like, these are the 3 most important factors. Okay, move on. What else is left? Does that mean that you have to dismiss what you just learned? Of course not. What it does mean is that it doesn't end there. Like I said, in one of my previous videos, I said, don't stop at principles. Look at all the nuances and the variations. This is a similar topic. This is a similar issue. It is related to everything that I said there. It's looking beyond just one answer to one problem, and then not looking further down the line. Okay, what else does that mean? Just because moving your head offline solves one problem, he's faster than you, or he's got a longer reach and it's hard for you to close the distance with just straight punches, doesn't mean that all problems are solved. But it also doesn't mean that by doing that, moving offline, you may just have created another problem. And that's the result of only looking at what is the benefit of moving your head offline like that when you punch. Are there any drawbacks? Yes, there are. And I just listed one of them a few minutes ago. So looking at everything you do as a trade-off as opposed to a fixed solution, like this is a neatly packaged solution to whatever problem, as opposed to looking at, if I solve this problem here, what else is influenced by that? How does that change everything else? And what are the drawbacks? What are the advantages? What are the negatives? As opposed to only looking at what feels good, which is like, okay, I just solved this problem and he doesn't punch me in the face anymore. No, he's not going to punch you in the face anymore. He's going to kick you in the face. Is that better? Let's agree to disagree on that one. All right, that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one. As always, like, share, subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time.